So when we think about nutrition, one way we can monitor nutrition is through body condition score. And what a body condition score is, it's a numerical system from 1 to 9 that tells us how fat or how thin a cow is. And so 1 is some bone with some hide hanging over it. Hopefully none of you ever see any of that. There's no reason to have any of those cows in the industry. We should have changed management long before we reached that point. On the other end of the spectrum is a body condition score 9, which is a very, very fat cow. When we look at body condition score, there's roughly 6 areas we're going to want to look at. One area we'll look at is down in the brisket of that cow. We'll look over her ribs so we can see how many ribs we'll see. We'll look down her backbone or her spine, and we'll look at the vertebrae. Can we see any of those? We'll look at her hook bone, or a lot of people talk about that as her hip bone. Up front, we'll look from there to her pin bone, which is the bone by the tail head. And if we look and if we see in between those two bones, if the muscle's kind of dipped in, that tells us we've lost some muscle and definitely lost quite a bit of fat there. If they're more level, then we would have some more. And when those cows get fatter, they'll get a little rounder. And so in addition to looking at whether it's level or sunk in or filled out between the hooks and pin bones, we'll look and see just how easy those bones are to see. Can we see the bone, or is it covered up with tissue? Another place we'll look at is those cattle starting to get fatter, especially once they get to about a body condition score 6. On each side of the tail head, you'll see what we call a fat pone. And what I like to think about is on a body condition score 6 cow, if we think about cutting an orange in half and slapping it on each side of the tail head, that would be a body condition score 6. If we thought about taking a cantaloupe and cutting it in half, that would be a body condition score 7 on each side of the tail head. Think about a watermelon and cutting it in half on each side of the tail, the rump back there would be a body condition score 8. So another place we'll look at body condition score is right in front of the hook bone. If we look at that backbone, we have the vertebrae going up, and then we also have vertebrae coming out to the side. And if we think about that area right in front of the hook bone, so along the backbone, you can see that those vertebrae coming out, that's where we'd get a T-bone. And so if you can look and if you can see the bones that would make up the bone of that T-bone, that tells you those cows are too thin. Typically that would be a body condition score 4 or less.